Hi, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to the live show with African Queen Mo and Susan. How are you doing, Susan? Karibu sana, karibu sana. So happy to see you there. And hoping that all of you guys are going to join us tonight. Is Friday night. Remember, we've changed the date to Fridays because it's more convenient, at least for now, for me and for Susan as well. And I'm hoping it's convenient for you. So, yeah, welcome to the show. Today, we have a lot lined up for you as usual, and we will not disappoint you. But unfortunately, we're going to start with the bad news and then move on to the good news because apparently bad news sells. But this bad news is way too bad, way too bad. So I think we start with the bad news, which is less triggering than the other bad news. Yeah. And what is the bad news that's less triggering, Susan? Can you update us? What is the bad news that's less triggering than the other bad news?
Well, we have the
I'm
issue
asking you
of
to read my mind.
sorry, yeah.
I'm asking you to
Well,
read my mind. Hmm.
well, there's the issue of we may be seeing the end of free education because the CS of education says they're trying to look outside the box on how they can fund education in this country. Remember, last week we talked about the capitation money that was being distributed was so ridiculous. One school got
Hmm.
164 shillings, the other one got 200 shillings. Parents are being called to, to meet costs that they were not meeting before. And of course, there's that danger of, we're going back to that place where children will be out of school, notwithstanding the fact that our constitution, says differently that children, should be going to school is a right. And, and the government did in 2003, remember, under our third president, Mwai Kibaki, he did say that school should be free
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
there should be free primary education. I think it's January 6, 2003, and the classes were, too overwhelming. There was so much interest in going to school. The classes were so full. The teachers were overwhelmed, and but it's one of the things they say that the people who went to school during that time. We ended up with a more educated society, as a result of which it's not easy to dupe like the Gen Zs and the millennials, because they are the ones who benefited from this. It's not easy to dupe them at all because they have read, they went to school, in part one of their subjects, I've forgotten what it's called. They do learn basic, the civics, the rights, the basic rights of people and stuff like that. And of course, they're more computer savvy and they know how to look for information online and follow things very keenly. So they're saying they were beneficiaries of the free education, not to mention the books that they read in literature, Tumbo Lisiloshiba, and stuff like that. So they're very aware of the political ailments, the things that ail countries. The Black Satire books. They talk about political failures and societal failures, and they highlight those things and the tensions between this and that. And so they're quite aware. So now we're looking at, here's like the headline in today's newspaper. It says end of free education, big question mark there. And the CS saying we're trying to look for ways to fund it. Of course, parents are up in arms because that's not the expectation. It's come upon them suddenly, and everybody hopes that the children will at least get basic education up to Form 4 at least. So we're looking at some dire times ahead. So that's the not so well. It is distressing. I think it's quite distressing to think that 20 years plus ago, there was a system in this country where children could get free education, and now we're looking toward the end of it. And really, this is an issue of maybe governance issues, um, that could have been addressed differently if our priorities were right. Proper investment. And of course, the bigger issue is the Rose Jerry question. Rose Jerry is a young lady. She's in school. She's a mother of two. If I'm not wrong, I think she's about 19 or 20 years old. She's not old. And she was just trying to build her CV when she developed a tool of public participation on the Finance Bill 2025. It was not new. She didn't use a new, it was not a new thing. It was done last year. And in fact, so she just continued on that model. And she ended up being arrested while she was at some graduation ceremony. She was arrested by a whole group of men, as she describes, like she was a very violent and dangerous thug. But she's just a young lady, not very big in stature or anything like that, soft voice and all that. And she was held for 4 days without trial, without being taken for court. Eventually, she was taken to court. And when she was taken to court, of course, they were singing and everything outside the court. Songs being led, we want Jerry, where is Jerry? Some songs like that going on. There's some videos like that. So they went to court. She was defended by a whole battery of lawyers. Yeah, there she is, young lady, unassuming. Like she said, when that she was just trying to build her portfolio, and she didn't intend any harm or anything like that, and she didn't even think there was anything wrong with what she was doing because it'd been done before anyway. So she went to court, and they tried to charge her with. They said that she'd committed a cyber crime. The lawyers were there, led by former Chief Justice David Maraga, said, "Well, we should be applauding her, not arresting her. She was helping Parliament to do its job and ensure there was public participation." And so it's not, and then they also argued that whatever they've tried to charge her with, there's no known offense of that nature, whatever they're describing. And then I was listening to some, so one of these TV pundits, and he was saying that, well, the charge sheet is so flawed. She was even being described as male. So there were lots of, little problems with it. A charge sheet needs to be very clear, and it has to articulate an offense, a known offense. So they were saying that there was actually an issue with the charge that was brought. She was brought to court for. So that's it. And in fact, it left us all puzzled. Remember in last week's show we talked about, yes, our constitution talks about freedom of expression, but doesn't talk about freedom after expression. So I mean, well, it does, but for some reason it's interpreted as two different things by our state machinery, and it's really a very unfortunate thing there. And she says this has triggered in her a desire to be an activist, so it's had the opposite effect on her. And imagine she was held for 4 days without charge, without being taken to court. She was held for 4 days, and she said on that fourth day, that's when they drew the charge. So it's like they were trying to figure out what to charge her with. There were so many things which are wrong with what happened to her. So then of course there she is, a young lady, completely baffled. She read a statement. I saw her, and it seems she had written it on the back of she'd opened up a brown paper bag and written on it, and she was really sort of saying, well, if you can come and send so many men to come and arrest just me, a small person like me, sort of thing. Oh, that's just so distressing. And truth be told, people have been talking about the finance bill. There's a lot of there are people doing the videos online and talking about it and saying what the effect it will have on people's pockets and stuff like that. And so you wonder, what did she do different But I heard one of the news anchors saying that one of the things about her, the tool she developed, is that it was very sort of user friendly. So many people used it to oppose, and
Mm.
there was like a flood of you know how they're emailed now
Yeah.
to the National Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
There was a
Mm-hmm.
flood of them, you know. But still, even if there was a flood, where's the offense? You know, where's the
It's
offense in that?
unbelievable if they have to. It's unbelievable if they have to cook stories about you just because of your intelligence. And it's kind of
Imagine,
strange that it's kind of coincidental that it comes with not capitating schools, not providing schools with universities, and what are they saying that there are TVET schools and universities and educational institutions that are not going to get capped with any funds. They're
imagine,
afraid of
imagine.
educated people. This is a crisis that we're actually experiencing globally of the actual true elite, not the rich ones, the people who are
Yeah,
educated and enlightened. Yeah? There's a
yeah,
crackdown on Harvard University in the US, as you see. Yeah, there's an
yeah,
attack
yeah, yeah. Exactly.
on higher
Mm-hmm.
education. There's an attack
Mm.
on people's intelligence, on people's, development of ICT tools, of of innovation, on innovation. There's an attack on innovation.
Yeah,
There's an attack on China. The attack on China is an attack on innovation. Really,
yeah,
because Chinese are known to be innovators, and the government has really gone far to help their people to innovate. So, if you become an inventor, an innovator of new ways of doing things, and the old people cannot catch up, you are a threat. If they don't understand what
yeah,
you're doing, and it might overturn their power, or it has any potential impact to influence anyone, then they feel threatened by it. But it's not going to work because people, the
mm,
human mind is just limitless.
yeah,
The human
yeah.
mind is
And this
limitless.
comes,
You can't limit a human mind even if you deny it formal education. In
yeah,
fact, when you deny
um,
people formal education, that is when they'll be free to think and really innovate out of their problems. I just cannot wait to see what happens. Even if, yeah, you know that they say the mother of invention, what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention.
necess- yeah, yeah, that's correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
And
this is
this
really amazing.
yeah,
Mhm.
what's amazing is that there's no funding for the free education and all that. The health system is underfunded or no funded. There are so many things that are being, the roads are, some are in such a deplorable state and
Mhm.
stuff like that. The money going to the counties is delayed and all that. And yet, the, the, the powers that be have the money and wherewithal to go around on what they're calling empowerment uh, campaigns, like to various regions where they're trying to literally, uh, sort of like lure people with money and empower them, giving them money and stuff. And they're going with loads of money. I saw one of them had given, is it 45, something like 45 million, something like that to, you know,
Where are they
and you
getting
just
this
wonder.
money from? It's amazing.
Exactly. And the school and the education system doesn't have enough funds. They're
Mhm.
not even able to budget. You remember the big issue about not paying invigilators and examiners and the quality assurers and all that, not having a budget line for that. it's
I
it's
guess they're
it's
trying to
really,
privatize
really,
education, which is going to leave a lot of people out of the system,
no,
which is very
it's
wrong. It's going to impoverish a
unacceptable,
lot of
really.
Africans, a lot of Kenyans, a lot of people, should I say, a lot of people, because again, Kenya is also a hub, an education hub for many African countries, not just Kenya. Tanzanians, people come from
Yeah,
all over Africa
yeah.
to Kenyan
Hmm.
universities, private and public. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
we're not playing our part the right way. We're going backwards in time, and this is wrong. This fear of the educated is wrong, guys. It's just sad, but it's not sustainable, unfortunately. It just isn't. Hey
And
guys, for those of you who are joining us on the live show, welcome. I can see you there. I can see your eyes over there watching. I see 1, 2, 3 people coming on board. Please call each other. Call each other. Come on and join us in the studio or join us in the comment section. I've provided a link there in the comment section, and you can join us with your comments. You can type in your comments in there. If you have anything that you'd like to us to discuss, or you'd like to discuss, this is our 1 hour when we talk about what's going on in Kenya, try to update ourselves. For those of us who are in the diaspora, this is an invaluable session where we actually have a chat with Susan, who is a lawyer and a mediator based in Nairobi. I happen to be based currently in the UK. And so currently I'm a diasporan, but I'm very much a Kenyan citizen and also interested in what's going on in the motherland. Yeah. So let's update ourselves and let's chat. Let's public participate over here. You're welcome. Karibuni, welcome. And even if you're not Kenyan, if you're African, you want to talk about another African country, you're welcome to do that. We can,
yeah,
probably pick it up on our geopolitical show, which we'll probably have maybe on Saturdays. We're just trying to see how to kind of like tie that in together with the Kenyan show. So today is Friday, so that's the reason why we have this show. So Susan, please go ahead
yeah,
and welcome everybody. Karibu.
yeah. Welcome, welcome. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the situation with trying to muzzle freedom of expression and our rights to participate, public participation. Trying to We're seeing the unfortunate events of our education system being impacted by lack of funding, and this is against the backdrop of all these campaigns, the politicians running around with huge baskets of money doing what they're calling empowerment, youth empowerment, and stuff like that. But we really know it's something that we should regard with some suspicion, because it looks like it's a campaign gimmick. Just looking through the newspaper again, I'm seeing here, that Kenyans may have to foot the bill for Adani as the state ends the deal. Remember the Adani thing, and they had to cancel those two contracts. So there's some news here saying that we may have to foot that bill. So the energy principal, Alex Washira, warned that Kenyans will have to bear the cost of compensating Adani for the work so far, though he did not disclose the actual amount. And this was an illegal contract.
How
Basically
can That's
speaking, that
exactly my question. How can we be compensating Adani? That
yeah,
sounds weird.
and
Yeah.
and if things are, and if things are illegal, it was not just a terminated agreement. They did not follow the law. They did not follow the rules of coming of engagement. They did not proceed in accordance with our constitutional requirements or even the legal requirements. So there's that illegality there, and an illegal contract is not binding. So why should we have to pay? Um, so it means that, of course, somebody somewhere is pushing that agenda to our detriment. And again, here I'm seeing the state unveils new rules to boost civil society checks. Again, we're having that issue coming up. Um, you know, we've heard that before, that the civil society, because of the human rights activism, usually, they're not there's not the state favorites, especially when the state decides to be heavy-handed, and we've seen a lot of that, happening in the East African region. In fact, that's hot news right now, um, where we have the Boniface Mwangi and Agatha um, Atuhaire case, where they went to the Tanzania to attend a treason trial of Tundulisu. They were actually allowed entry into Tanzania. Others were not. They were stopped at the port of entry. That is Mathai and a number of other people. So they were turned back. Former, I think Mathai and Willy Mutunga were turned back, plus others, because from what they said in the press conference, there were a number of them. Um, But the former Chief Justice David Maraga was able to go in and attend and hear the case. So what's interesting is both Boniface and Agatha they were not in Tanzania illegally, but they were arrested and they were abducted, let me put it that way, and subjected to terrible, 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 degrading and inhuman treatment, which is something that is not constitutional, which is against the all the human rights documents, and in particular, there's one particular covenant on degrading and inhuman treatment, and they were really, really degraded. In fact, it was just a tearjerker hearing their first-hand narration on what happened to them, and to see a grown man weeping, and even to hear what they did to him, I think brought many listeners to tears themselves. Agatha too, when she said what they had done to her, they were tortured, they were, you know, sexually assaulted, stripped, terrible, terrible, terrible conduct. And of course, there was, so the Kenyans and have been up in arms about the treatment of the two, and saying, this is not acceptable. They've expected our government to speak out loudly, especially after hearing what happened. There were some debates in the National Assembly regarding this, the unacceptability of this treatment. So, and you can imagine because I saw a picture of Boniface and he could barely walk. I think they also were hitting the soles of his feet, so he could barely walk. And in fact, when he was released, he was hospitalized for a time. And Agatha also, she's Ugandan, and she was also sexually assaulted and subjected to degrading and inhuman treatment. So we had that, and there's been a lot of hue and cry all over. Amnesty International Kenya and various number of other institutions who have a voice in the human rights space have come out and really condemned that, the treatment of the activists. So a big concern that was raised by Mathai in one of her press conferences. Mathai is the head of her new party, the PLP party, People's Liberation something, and she talked about the growing concern of the erosion of the democratic space in the lack of or lowered respect for human rights. And she talked in the East African region. So we do have that problem in Uganda. We have that problem in Tanzania. And again, we've seen a series of abductions, especially following like the Gen Z protests last year. And we've seen the reports in the news of abductions, people, um, speaking out against something, and they find they have been abducted. I mean, we just hear that they've been abducted and stuff like that. So these are things that really, really need to continue to concern us as Kenyans, and things that we should, we need to, to speak up against, because we have a constitution, we have a robust constitution. Our country has international obligations on human rights, just as our neighboring countries also do. So those are some of the very upsetting things that we've seen happening in the human rights thing. Of course, the issue of the health sector not doing well, although we hear certain, I think it works for certain categories of people, but for those who really need the support of the SHA, it is not working. It's not working for them at all. And then in the we've seen on the political space, if we want to talk a little bit about it, we've seen Matiang'i has quit his job in the World Bank. We know that he's interested in working with other opposition leaders like Rigathi Gachagua, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, Eugene Wamalwa. And he has actually resigned from his big job, so that he's actually had like a long-term plan, it appears, from what I'm reading, to come back and be a politician. You know, and that is something that, you know, we're waiting to see. And this is 2025, and already, you know, it's taking time out to come back and campaign. You know, it's interesting that you know, I'm quite looking forward to see how it will pan out, what we will see in 2027. I'm also waiting to see whether people will actually register and want to participate in the elections. And we're on this show, we keep telling people that's the best way for you to get your voice heard, is to vote. And we're hoping that many people participate in that. Yeah, and something else is Orengo state visit unlocks multi-billion shilling projects for Siaya. So it's unfortunate that we have these games being played by a political class where, for their own ends, they are willing to water down their convictions on certain things. So Orengo, you know, he's got multi-billion shilling project for Siaya, and he's changed his tune. I remember he was very vocal against the you
The
know,
Ruto
Raila's
regime.
position.
Oh yeah,
Even Raila's
Railas.
position, yeah,
Oh,
aligning on the, yeah,
in the broad-based
on the
government,
broad base.
spread-based
Yeah,
government. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Susan,
Interestingly,
before you move forward, my head is still
yeah,
stuck, like about two or three subjects back,
yeah,
with the Boniface and Agatha situation. You
yeah,
know, that really hit me hard. I, under normal circumstances, this channel would actually comment immediately on such issues. You know, because I watched as Boniface narrated the ordeal that he went through in the hands of the Tanzanians. And I was like, which country is this? This is not the Tanzania I know. This is not the lovely country of Tanzania that I've visited so many times and actually worked in, sent consultants to, visited. I love Tanzania. Actually, I think I just absolutely adore that country. And it broke my heart. My eyes are full of tears. If I imagine that anybody in Tanzania would harm a fellow East African, regardless of what they did, regardless, even if they took a life, regardless, I was like, I didn't know, it brought images to my mind of the Tanzanians who come to shop in December, you know, at our malls. They come to our malls in December and they have a great time. And me being in the coast, located in the coast, there's so many Tanzanians who also come to enjoy the beaches, just to enjoy East Africa. East Africa is ours. We are brothers and sisters, literally sharing a border. So when I saw Boniface being pulled out of his hotel room, being threatened in that manner for no reason, just because he wanted to attend a hearing. When I read and I listened to Agatha narrate her ordeal in the hands of these men, I asked myself, am I in a simulation, or is this true? Is this really happening? You know, I really could not honestly believe it. And then when I think about President Mama Suluhu, who we've all been so proud of as Africans, as Kenyan women, we have been 100% behind this lady. We've been so proud of her, always bringing her up, talking about her, saying, you know, if Mama Suluhu could do it, any woman could do it, any woman could be president. But for her name to be soiled in this manner is such a terrible blow to the Kenyan woman. It's a blow to African women. It's a blow to African women who want to be president of Africa, or who want to take on roles, leadership roles in Africa. It is a blow to the Kenyan, to the girl child, to the African girl child who will grow up to find out that there was a man and a lady who were assaulted under the watch of a female president. You know, we always assume that a female president would have empathy compared to a male. And unfortunately, we are seeing something completely different, something very strange happening. And it brings to mind the time that Mrs. Clinton was said to be involved in. Actually, she was the person who was behind the unalivement of the Libyan president, Gaddafi. And sometimes you think that, so now we should actually just get that idea out of our minds that it's not a gender issue, it's an individual issue. It's not about whether you're a man or a woman as a leader. It's just about who you are, whether you have Ubuntu, whether you have humanity in you, whether you have ethics and morals. Because we were just having this chat earlier in an interview that I did today, and we're talking about kind of like the erosion of humanity, and it's global. Unfortunately, it's a global movement, and something that is totally an African, because if there's a place that has had Ubuntu, it's Africa. And a lot of people are moving to Africa because of Ubuntu. They're lacking love and human concern in other parts of the world, and they're moving towards Africa and Asia, where that is still present, where we still see, humanity for what it is. But to imagine that you would subject a human being to that level of torture, you wouldn't even do that to an animal. You wouldn't even do that to an animal. I wouldn't do it to an animal. And if I found someone do that to an animal, I'll deal with them. We would all do something to that person who would treat an animal that way. So my question is, this is beyond humanity. And I ask myself, where are we going with this? We have to stop it. We have to support the LSK that is planning to sue the president of Tanzania for this kind of torture, this kind of, allowing and promoting and even encouraging and praising this kind of behavior against a neighboring country and against a human being. This is actually a crime against humanity. It goes beyond even anything political. This is a crime. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a magistrate, I'm not a judge, but I can just tell you now, this is criminal. This is criminal. And I'm so disappointed by Mama Suluhu. I'm so disappointed. I really want her to say, no, it wasn't me. I did not order them to do that. I really wish that she would come out and say that. She didn't. I'm so broken by that. I'm broken, really. I'm really broken. I want to play you guys something here, Susan. Just a sec. I just want to play you something here. I mean, this thing was so painful to watch. I could not believe it, really. See, Boniface Mwangi can hardly walk. Look at his feet. The torture. His feet were beaten. His feet were hit so bad that he cannot walk without support on his feet. Some special shoes that he's wearing on his feet. Yeah? Just imagine, guys, that kind of torture. Who does that to a human being? Who does that? I'm so disappointed. You guys, man, the pain, I'm sure all of you are all disappointed. And then they also tortured a lady. They tortured this lady called Agatha. I'm going to try and share my screen. I'm not the best at sharing screens, but I'm going to try. But here's the lady that they tortured here. I don't know if you can see it.
Of sexual violence against East Africans, Boniface.
Oh, but anyway,
No,
this one is this is the president.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is the president. Okay, here's Agatha.
I knew they were trying to block that me from hearing that. So they violently took me out of that vehicle and they also ordered me to strip naked. Now, I was afraid. You know, many people think I don't get afraid. I mean, I know people who say it seems fear is not in Agatha's DNA. but I was afraid. You know, I first got afraid when they blindfolded us. I think I had a moment of like almost a panic attack because always my fear was being tortured. I always thought, I wish the day they get me, I have like poison and I swallow it so that I don't go through so much pain, so much humiliation. So I was afraid when they picked us up, and then I told myself, there's nothing you can do. There's nowhere out. There's no one saving you. You are blindfolded. You are like that sort of suffocation where there's no way out. So I found myself having this calm of accepting, whatever happens will happen. You have to prepare yourself for it. Now, when they say take off your clothes, I realized I hadn't prepared myself for that. So of course I hesitated. I'm so afraid. It had already been clear these are not people who have come to talk to you for your conversation, where you can even beg or whatever. No, they had come with one instruction: inflict as much pain as you can. So before I
Okay, so let me
the
go
torture,
now to here.
assault, and use of sexual violence against East Africans Boniface Mwangi and
I don't know if they can
Agatha
hear this, it's so
Atuhaire.
low.
The Law Society of Kenya and Police Reforms Working Group calls upon the East African community and the international community to demand the government of Tanzania hold accountable the police officers and their commanding officers responsible for the torture, assault, and sexual assault committed against Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire. Yesterday, the two East African human rights defenders courageously testified to the cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment and torture they experienced in Dar es Salaam between 19th and 23rd May 2025. They publicly detailed the deliberate inflicting of physical beating, sexual assault, verbal abuse, and humiliation for the purpose of extracting information and punishment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that I have people online, they're saying, okay, we have Grace. Hi, Grace. Welcome, Grace Agenda. Good evening. It was a lovely chatting with you today. Hi, Grace. And she's saying sexual assault and violence is a weapon of torture. Definitely. It breaks your inner man, your dignity. And then we have Angela Wainaina. Hi, Angela. She said, you said it well, erosion of humanity. Absolutely. It's the end of Ubuntu. It's at the end. And at the end of Ubuntu, what is there? Except hell. Absolute hell. And to imagine that a female, a woman, a female would inflict this on somebody else's child, somebody else's father, mother,
Parent,
sister.
Mm.
This goes beyond, I think, this goes beyond even legal. This is
A
moral.
citizen of another country, because both of them were not Tanzanian citizens. Yeah.
Imagine 2 citizens,
Yeah.
Tanzania and Kenya, your neighbors,
And
2 neighboring countries. Why?
Uganda.
Why?
Uganda and Kenya. Yeah.
No. Just because of an
To
election.
Yeah. And
See,
there's an election. Is it in October?
You step down,
It's in
Mama. Just step down. This power, anyway, it ends. And eventually you have to live in the same society. Yeah. And your children, you're not thinking about your kids. Madame Suluhu, she's not thinking about her children and what those children are going to be. Everything that a parent does, they say that the children reap sour grapes. These people had not done anything to the government of Tanzania. And those men who inflicted this harm on these 2 people themselves, I believe in karma anyway. That was too much. So I just want to convey my sincere condolences and sympathies, should I say, sympathies to Agatha and to Boniface Mwangi and to Kenya and Uganda. I want to just convey my sincere sympathy to those families. Honestly, Nobody deserves this. Doesn't matter what they did. Doesn't matter that they crossed the border. They made a mistake. Okay, fine. Why don't you just send them home? Send them home. That's enough. Just like they did with Martha Karua. Kick them out. But why do this? Why taint Tanzania? Tanzania. That beautiful country of Tanzania that produces musicians like Christina Shusho. Utukumbuke, unikumbuke. What? That country is huge. It's too big for this. You can't soil a country like this. Julius Nyerere, those beautiful leaders that we have in Eastern Africa. Guys, if anybody knows any Tanzanian, and if any Tanzanian is listening here, this is my appeal. Please, guys, don't be quiet about this. It's not okay. It's not okay. We have Tanzanians living in Kenya. We have Tanzanians living in Uganda. And we don't want to create some sort of animosity between the countries. It's not right. Yeah, we want peace. Me, I want peace anyway. This is wrong. Guy. No, that was not.
It's certainly not something that we should keep quiet about, because, like I said earlier, they were legally in Tanzania, and there's nothing to stop you from going to a trial in a court. The courts are supposed to be, you're supposed to be heard in open court. So you're supposed to go. I mean, the former Chief Justice Maraga was inside the courtroom. He was able to get into the courtroom and hear the proceedings. And these two, maybe because they were journalists or whatever, then they should have, like you said, they should have stopped them from entering the country in the first place, but not getting them, for them to enter and then for them to be subjected to something that we can't even articulate without, shivering because of how ghastly it is. I mean, the torture, the harassment, the humiliation that those two, faced. You can imagine even the trauma to their families, their children, and their parents and their spouses. You can imagine how that has affected them. And, they definitely need some, prayers and counseling, because what they said was done to them was just so horrific. I had to listen to it in parts. I could not listen to it all at once because of how horrified I was that these guys are telling us this actually happened to them. And then the saddest thing also is the way because the netizens have just, it just exploded all over. Everybody was talking about it. The Tanzanian police say, well, we didn't hear, this is not true. We never received any report of any of these things happening. Excuse me, they were, after treating them that way, they were deported. Where were they going to report? And the people who are supposed to have reported, who are supposed to have tortured them, were security people and the security forces. So who are they supposed to report to? I mean, it's just one of those. We see that bluffing going on even in the other East African countries, including our own. Remember when Besigye was taken and how they responded? Well, we don't know what. Then it emerged later that, in fact, Martha Karua talked about is she said that the Kenyan police actually helped the abduction of Besigye.
Yeah. But even if it happened, Susan, nobody tortured him like that.
Yeah,
in
nobody
Kenya,
did.
that didn't happen. Yeah. And it would never happen. Never. We are civilized. We are civilized. We're not barbarians. Yeah. That's very barbaric. We're civilized people. Even if it was very uncivilized to take people to get him out of a conference room, put him in a car, blindfold him, transport him. There's another level of cruelty that is the one that you hear about in Saudi Arabia, that the one that you associate to slavery, the one you associate to Auschwitz, the one you associate to Hitler. Yeah, you don't associate it to today's leaders. And I don't think that should be allowed. Yeah. So anyway, let me not, like you're saying, Susan, I don't want to belabor the point, but this thing really annoyed me.
I think it annoyed many. I understand that Suluhu shut down X because of all the noise that was on X in Tanzania. People made a lot of noise, I think, including Tanzanians themselves,
Mm-hmm.
because really it's an image. You see, one thing can happen to another person, it can also happen to you. So it means that you're dealing with people who don't fear the law. They're not accountable to, the law holds us accountable to certain behaviors. Even the issue of people being from different states, different nations, and stuff like that, should have sort of restrained their behavior to some degree. But there was no restraint, and they've actually done a lot of damage.
They have done
And
damage.
something like
Yeah, they have done
not
damage to
acceptable.
their country, and they've done damage to Africa. They have made Africans
Yeah,
look bad to the international
mm,
community. They have made us,
yeah.
the international community, look at Africans as barbarians, as uncivilized. Yeah. Anybody who hears this
But
story doesn't care about what happens to Africans when they go abroad, when they go to Europe, like our country where I am right now. Yeah. So what would make a president or a leader of a Western nation even have any sort of mercy on any Black or African person if we ourselves can met that kind of injustice to each other? We
it's a
teach each other
betrayal.
how to treat our own people. Yeah.
It's a
If we can be
betrayal.
treated like that in our country, why should they care about us out there? Why should they care about the African American? We are actually telling them that we are subhuman. We're subhuman, that we can tolerate this level of pain. And it's wrong. It's so wrong on so many levels. This is just, no, this thing should even go to ICC. It's that bad. Yeah. It should.
Yeah.
It should go to that level. Although ICC, why should they care? I don't know. It's just a court, isn't it? Yeah. This is so
The
wrong.
International Criminal Court.
It paints a very bad picture of Tanzanians. And Tanzanians are not like this. The ones I know, the ones I met, no. I never saw that.
Yeah,
So I don't
that's
know
for sure.
what kind of Tanzanians these are. I don't know who they are. Really. Who are they? I don't know. Yeah. Weird. Yeah. I'm just pissed.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can proceed where you had started. Apologies, guys, for belaboring this point, but please, we can't belabor it enough. We can talk about it for days.
No.
It will still be fresh.
Yeah.
Boniface
It-
Mwangi did
yeah.
not deserve that, and neither did Agatha. They did not deserve nobody deserves that. No one, no matter what. No, nobody deserves that. Yeah, it's wrong.
Yeah. Terrifying.
We wouldn't do that to Tanzanians in Kenya. We wouldn't do that to the Tanzanians in Kenya. We wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do it to Uganda, to Tanzanians in Uganda. They wouldn't do it. So why are Tanzanians doing this to fellow Africans, fellow East Africans? Why? Would they do that if they, for example, if they were white? Would they do that? They would not. They would definitely not subject anybody to torture who is non-Black. Why do we hate each other so much? Why do we hate each other like that? It's so wrong. And for the people who are saying, he deserves it. What was he doing in Tanzania? Alikuwa anafanya nini? Why did he come to Tanzania? Hey, that's not the question. The question is, why did you treat him like that? Yeah.
Deserve.
You didn't want him in your country, so you kick him out. You have a right to leave, to get him. Yes, you have a right. Yeah, you have a right to your sovereignty. If you want to remove them, remove them.
Yeah.
Me, I was deported from America. I was thrown out at the border. I was sent home. Nobody tortured me. Maybe I can consider my mental torture, but nobody tortured me like that. Huh? So why is it, if Jungus cannot do that to you, then why is it that we do that to each other as Black people, as Africans? Why do we do that to each other? Why? It's not even in our history. I've never heard my grandmother or grandfather say anything like that. What we used to do as Africans, there was excommunication. You're actually excommunicated from your tribe or from your village. You're told, go and never come back. That is the worst form of torture. Sent away. That's Africans. That's the true African. Me, I start to believe you're not African if you behave this way. You're not. You can't be. You can't be. You cannot be African. You cannot be purely DNA Africa. Kabisa can't. Because that's not us. We're not capable of doing such things. Yeah, it's not. So Grace is saying something here. Makes one ask, what's the value of democracy if you clamp down freedom of expression? It just serves to inspire resilience in the people. Are we advancing or regressing in human rights? Susan, answer that one. You're the one who knows human
No,
rights.
I think that's just to echo what Martha Karua was saying, is that we have regressed. We are in a delicate space. Our democracy are under threat because we can't even say that the Constitution is protecting. If we can see cruel and degrading inhuman treatment, cruel, degrading, and inhuman treatment meted out against one nation against nationals of other nations, neighboring nations with which are your immediate neighbors and a part of the same community or jumuiya, as Martha Karua said. It's very, very, very disturbing. And definitely, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how the Law Society petition goes, to bring this issue to book and have it addressed well, because obviously our relations have been sort of impacted by that. It can even affect things like tourism. Kenyans may be a bit worried about going to Tanzania. Ugandans too, even for work. You might choose to do your work elsewhere, because if they can treat your brother and sister in that way, then you can be treated the same way. The Tanzanians also should be worried that they could also, if they just say, as we say in Africa, you just say where, you just say where, and everything goes, it explodes in your face.
You just say in this Swahili, naomba naomba nini, out Neja. This polite Swahili. You're like, you're in Tanzania. We don't want that.
Look at Rose Jerry, this young lady. Yeah, I mean, the same thing here. Look at Rose Jerry and how she was treated. Arrested like she was a villain of the highest order, and kept in somewhere for at the police station for 4 days, and then they go and try to make up some sort of charge, and because it was so rushed, the charge sheet seems to be so seriously flawed. I mean, honestly, and she's just a young lady. You in fact, you just look and when you hear her speaking and you look at her and you wonder, and she says, I was just building my CV. I'm in class, so I was using the knowledge that I've acquired in class to develop this tool.
Yeah,
and
they should go and arrest her
it's been used, and it's been used before. Anyway, yeah. So other news, I was talking about
Grace Agenda is laughing. Grace Agenda is laughing at your harrowing experience at the American border. It's very harrowing.
Yeah, it was bad. Oh, that was bad. That was bad. Yeah.
You know what? It was bad, but I thanked my lucky stars that I was okay. I didn't go to El Salvador. Do you know that there are Canadians, Americans with American passports, with green cards being sent to the El Salvador prisons for nothing? Nothing. Where? Do you know these things? These prisons are run by private companies.
Yeah, in the US.
So it's money. They want you. They capture you like a little slave. Like, they capture you. Your money. There's money on your head. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. That's $6,000 there, $6,000 there. And the president of El Salvador is very happy to have you in his country, because per person is money. It's besha. So it's all finances, nothing else. So I just thank God. Actually, yes, it was harrowing, but I'm happy. Strangely enough, I'm actually glad it happened to me. And I'm glad it happened that way, that I managed to get out of there okay, because now I can identify with those people when they say that this is what happened to them, that they were deported at the border. When I can kind of understand it. I think Boniface and Agatha, once they completely heal, and I pray to God that they heal miraculously from this, that God gives them extra strength, miraculous, something, some kind of supernatural power and strength, that they get that from here, because this is what's going to happen. They're going to become the new Ibrahim Traores now. of Eastern Africa. They're going to be the toughest people in Eastern Africa. You know, once they're through with this phase, you and I can never come close to them, because what have they not seen? Not that they should see it, but there's something about the human psyche. Yeah. There's something about the human psyche.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, when you see people going to army boot camp, they call it boot camp. When you go to boot camp, when you come out of there, did you go to you, Susan? Did you go to NYS, or did you get a
No,
doctor's note?
no, it's not that I got. I went to university at that time, and yeah,
Ah, okay,
yeah, I
you
went
were
to
ahead of the
university.
people who are going to NYS, like Akina Grace. Grace, did you go to NYS?
No,
Grace Agenda. Did you go to
no.
NYS?
My
I'm asking Grace Agenda here in the comments. And Wainaina, what's her? Yeah. Did you go to National Youth Service? Hmm? Angela, Wainaina, did you go to the National Youth Service? Did you attend? I did. For a few months, I attended. Yes, I'm one of the unlucky few who had to go to NYS. And I found myself
no, the
using
one.
I found myself using my NYS skills when I was detained, when I was going to be removed. I suddenly just went into that mode of being a soldier mentally. Yeah, it's something that I
Yeah,
actually believe should be actually encouraged and given as training to those who want to have it after high school. It's actually something that can help you survive anywhere, even in a forest by yourself. It's a crazy kind of training, toughening you up. Yeah. So Grace says, mercifully, I escaped the dragnet. I went straight to nursing school. You're smart, Grace. Well, us guys were being told,
yeah,
like me, I was being told by those ladies, wewe, umenona bila pulan. Eh? That's what they were telling me. Because I was a big, talking about, I had big, eh? So they would wake you up at 4 in the morning and you have to march and you have to run and you have to, that's another story for another day anyway. But hey, those
yeah,
trainers were no joke. But by the end of it, I was running. I could run and I could run a lot. Nobody was waking me up. I was
yeah,
waking up early doing my work. So what I'm saying is sometimes these trainings are good for you. They harden you. They're good. They're good trainings, but not what Boniface and Agatha went through, and many others we hear of are going through that in Tanzania. Tanzania has just soiled its name 100%. It's just unfortunate. So sad.
yeah. It's
Anyway,
unfortunate.
Susan,
I think
now you were telling us a story about Shah. Tell us about Shah.
well, I just
Social
want to
health.
comment first.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want to comment? Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah. What was I going to say? In fact,
Wale,
that
made you forget.
Tanzania has sort of been blacklisted to a certain extent. I think, is it the
Hmm.
planes? Is it the civil aviation that they've said that planes should not go to Tanzania, or there's another country? Is it Suriname?
Mm-hmm.
Suriname and Tanzania. There's some issue like that. So, once you start having a bad reputation about the safety of people, you know, uh, then it becomes an issue. I was actually talking about the what is happening in the political arena, and I was talking about Orengo, and he was really vocal um, about this broad-based thing. You could see he was not very keen on the fact that suddenly you know they're they're not, you can't tell where the opposition is, and ODM is supposed to be the largest party in the opposition and all that. And he was quite vocal. So now we read that Orengo state visit unlocks multi-billion shilling projects for Siaya. He's the governor for Siaya, and there are a number of projects all over, and they went to State House. And my question is, why do you need to go to State House to unlock multi-billion shilling projects? I mean, this is a governor who has gone with his members of parliament and the politicians of his county, and they've got this unblocking. Are all the governors supposed to go to State House? We have a constitution which tells you how you're supposed to do things. This seems to me an overstep. by somebody who should know better. You know, and I'm seeing the, you know, the Rarieda, there are so many things about roads, Ugenya, Ugunja, Gem, you know, Bondo, Alego, Usonga, you know, there are all these projects that were there, and I think they had stalled or they needed some funding. So they paid a visit to State House, and the news is saying that that visit has unlocked. You know, for me, some of these systems, when you are sort of like undermining what should be, you know, what if you can't get in? So it means that there's some level of control of the executive over who gets money, who gets the money released to them. And that's not the way it should be at all, at all. You were talking about SHA and SHIP. Of course, there's no money. There's no money to fund it. The UHC, the Universal Healthcare personnel are, you know, on the streets. There's a lot of they are protesting. The doctors of the three counties. Remember, we talked about that last week. They are also protesting. They've downed their tools, and so we you know, we'll continue to have this, and it's mostly about lack of funding. You know, the system. I've heard people say, one or two people, you know, who I've met, who said, well, SHA worked for them, but I think it was the shift, the fund that worked for them. But the people who really need the support of the SHA are not really getting the support that they need. So those who have seem to be helped to have to a certain extent, who are in the, as you said, the in a certain level are getting, but the poorer people who really need the help of the system are not getting it, which defeats the purpose of the whole thing. You know, it defeats the purpose of the whole thing. Yeah, and I talked earlier about the agriculture sector when we were having a chat. There's an article here that talks about, although tea is one of Kenya's largest exports, the type of things that our tea growers have to go through, there are 42 levies, 42 levies killing the tea sector. Can you imagine that? 42. And they're saying that there are 8 taxes collected by KRA, including 30% corporate tax on profit and VAT at 16%. There are 5 annual fees charged by the Agricultural and Food Authority, ranging between 2,000 and 25,000. Then there are several levies and license fees charged by counties, you know, and stuff like that, as well as other national government agencies like the Kenya Bureau of Standards, Kenya Ports Authority, Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, and NEMA. And you know, it's so debilitating for this type of thing to happen. And then it talks about although okay, that tea is grown in very many areas in Kenya, and yet we are finding a situation where there's this overtaxation. When we're talking about 42 levies, that really is burdensome. That is very, very burdensome. At the end of the day, you wonder how much, if these levies were not all there, how much would tea cost? How much would tea cost?
Yeah.
How much would it cost? You know?
Yeah, so if they kill the tea sector, so who are they trying to elevate? Are they trying to make those tea farms unprofitable so that people stop growing tea and they start building what? What are they planning to do with that land? That's a question I would like to ask myself. Where is the tea land? Where is it? And what do they want to do with it? Is it being targeted? Because if they're not going to grow tea, what are they going to do with it? Is it being targeted? What's under the tea? Are there minerals? You know, those are the questions I ask myself. Like, you're going to put levies on a specific product. There's something else that you want from there. You want people to stop using the farms so that what? So that we can sell off the farms to big corporations so that they can put the land under what? Under monocropping? You know, there's a
Uh,
lot of there's a lot of questions there, because there's another thing that's going on, if you want to remember, is that we have a food bank. The food bank with indigenous African foods is run by Bill Gates. Yeah. And actually it's being funded by Bill Gates. And
mm-hmm.
the thing is, he's also saying that he's going to give a lot of money to African countries. And we know that most African countries, the population, most of them are farmers. They work in, farms. So
Yeah.
if all this money, if all of his money is coming to Africa, where's it going to end up? It's going to end up with farmers, right? So what are they going to do? Is he going to buy out their farms? What's going to happen? We have to be smarter and
I
start
think,
thinking a little bit more strategic. Start thinking a bit. Start digging. Digging. Don't just listen to stories. They're
yeah,
increasing the level of tea. So why? Who benefits? Why? Who is affected? Who is affected
I
and who
think,
benefits? And what's happening in the
yeah,
geopolitical scene? What's happening out there?
I think that they're targeting what happens with government because they want to raise revenue. They target sectors that are doing well and collect. So you can see there are different levels. There's layered taxation, because not only is the money being collected by KRA, then at the county level there are also money that's being collected in all these tea sector growing areas, and there are very many. Kirinyaga, Kericho, Murang'a, Nyeri, Kiambu, Tharaka Nithi. These are like 10, 12 counties.
And
And they're at the county level, they're also collecting money, and they're saying at different stages along the, what you call that lane, the supply chain, there are
yeah,
different levies which are being charged. So it just makes it is a disincentive, I think. Although Badi is saying that the government has extended various tax incentives, including exempting farm inputs such as fertilizer, agricultural services, and tractors from VAT. So you see, some of these things are not, the impact is not being felt by the right people. Whenever they do some of these things, the impact is not being felt by the right people.
yeah.
So it's something
Meanwhile,
that
meanwhile,
and
meanwhile, Traore's Burkina Faso has decided to
mhm.
become a tax-free nation. He's not
So
imposing
how is
taxes
he?
on his people, and he's distributing tractors to anybody who wants one. Literally, giving farmlands. Go dig. Hey, I'm telling you, maybe
Yeah.
Many Kenyans should consider, especially the farmers, should consider going and changing their nationality. Go to Burkina Faso, get some land, start farming. Yeah, you work with the
Yeah.
farmers, you work with the leaders who care about you. I think we're going to have to get to that point, because if we get to one Africa, it means that Burkina Faso will just become like one of the states of America. We get up and move. Yeah, but anyway, beyond that, the Kenyan farmer is really having it rough. It's not easy for them, man. Not easy for them.
And
Yeah,
they're saying this is not just the tea sector that's affected; it affects other sectors as well. That's now a justification from Badi when he's meeting these tea growers and saying, "Well, it's happening in other sectors too," as if that's a justification. You know, you know,
yes,
as
imagine.
if it's a
He needs to
justification.
go and farm. Yeah. Some of us
It's
have been running
terrible.
development projects in the area of agriculture for a long time, and we see the struggles of farmers. Farmers are some of the poorest people. The poorest. The people who make money are the middlemen. It's not the farmers. So when we put
Mm,
all the burden on the farmer, it's really unfair. Really, really unfair. Because most of the farms are actually small. They're small. What do they call those farms? Yeah, literally. Not even big farms.
share,
Just, just
shareholders.
yeah, exactly. No, there's the large scale farms, and then there's the small
Yeah,
scale farm, the small scale
yeah,
garden. Call them gardens.
yeah,
Call them gardens,
yeah,
yeah. And then they all bring their little
yeah.
produce together and take it all to a cooperative. So what do they want them to do? To sell their land? Because what's going to happen if the land becomes unprofitable is that they're going to be forced
They
to
want
sell.
they want a source to collect money. Even if you remember, the one of the things that caused a big uh, problem
Mm-hmm.
was the government will tend to tax the things that the public are likely to purchase. Those things that you really, need to have. And so as to collect, it assures their income. It assures collection. So I don't know whether that's the reason why they target. And these guys make big money. They're tea farmers and all that. So the money is being collected all along the way. But it makes me wonder, And I read somewhere that Kenya's purple tea is some of the best in the world. And we're talking about these tea farmers. I'm sure they're growing purple tea, some of them. And
Wow, never even heard of purple tea ever. Do we have
purple
that?
tea.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. Kenyan purple tea. Just Google, you'll find it as one of the best, according to Google. It's one of the best.
I feel cheated. I didn't know we had purple tea. Okay. Susan,
Yeah.
Grace Agenda is asking you to comment on the Machakos High Court, Kenyan farmers challenging the Seed and Plant Varieties Act that criminalizes exchange, sale, and use of uncertified seeds, including traditional and indigenous varieties. There's like 15, I saw, like when I look in AI on Google, it says 15 smallholder farmers and supported by various civil society groups aims to protect farmers' rights to save, use, and exchange their own seeds, arguing the law infringes on constitutional rights and traditional farming practices. So they're challenging the seed law. So there's a law that was introduced, the Seed and Plant Varieties Acts. It criminalizes the sale, barter, or exchange of uncertified seeds, including indigenous and farmer-saved varieties. Would you believe that? I heard that last year, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now farmers cannot exchange their seeds. They cannot save their seed. They cannot exchange. They cannot barter. They cannot. Gosh, this is wrong. This is wrong. What do you think about that as a lawyer?
It's even controlling which seeds you can use. So it's like saying, you can't use this, you can't use that. And it's a way of controlling things. Also, when you see something like that, somebody's benefiting somewhere from that whole thing. So when you start controlling what people can grow, and you need to look, beyond it. Because when you think about the indigenous seeds and stuff like that, they have been developed and they grow well in that area already, wherever it is. And they've thought about it and they've grown it, the indigenous knowledge using all that. That should be an interesting case to follow. I'll follow it more keenly. And definitely the outcome is something that can be, of high impact, I think, to various parts of Kenya, because all regions have indigenous ways of doing stuff. And for it just to be, being controlled to that extent is something that should worry us. And usually when we see that happening, we know somebody somewhere is trying to make money out of a situation. And probably, I think the Constitution is on the side of the petitioners in that case. But we'll see that what their arguments are. We'll see how the court will interpret those facts and what the outcome will be at the end of the day. I will follow it up, Grace, and see what the outcome is. When we come back, I'll maybe give an update on it. And but I certainly think that some of these controls are detrimental completely, even to innovation. They hamper even development at the county level. You can imagine the benefits of the county level if they can actually have that freedom to grow the seeds which are good for the area, not have somebody else coming and dictating what it should be. That's how we end up importing things that are not good for our country, and it's so and there's a lot of waste as a result of that. And I think it's a good petition. I'm happy that they have taken that matter to court. That's their livelihood. That is their livelihood at stake. We'll have a look. I'll have a look and maybe I'll comment more deeply on that. Yeah. Thank you for asking that question, Grace. Yeah.
Sorry. It's a very good question. Yeah. And these are the things that we in the diaspora are not aware of. And we need to be aware of. And even the people who are in Kenya, may not be aware of it as much, but those of us in the diaspora, You know, one of the things that
Yeah.
we miss the most, like for me, I can tell you, I really miss my ndoma. I miss my traditional root vegetables. I miss
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
food. Our food is so amazing. I remember my grandmother would get so mad when we served my dad rice. You say, why are you people giving your father weak food? Food for weak people. Eh? And she would say in Kikuyu, she would say, give your father food for strengthening. You know, food for strengthening the body. You know, strong food. Give your father strong food. And you know, strong food is things like raw bananas, which are cooked matoke, you know, the root vegetables, sweet potatoes, ndoma, yams, those are the strong foods. And by the way, they have amazing minerals. One of the things I realized when I was in Kenya for the 1 year that I was there was I ate ndoma a lot. It was my favorite, and I would eat it in so many different ways. And I even discovered where to get the best doma. And believe it or not, I discovered the best place is actually the supermarket, believe it or not. They have the best domas and they're so sweet. But I would cut them in slim slices and fry them up with my ghee and have them for breakfast. And you saw me eating them. Do you know they give you a sense of strength that you cannot get from anywhere else? You feel like the Incredible Hulk. If you eat bread, you don't feel it. If you eat eggs, you don't feel it. But if you eat doma, I'm not even talking about sweet potatoes, eat doma. My goodness, you'll feel like the Incredible Hulk. I used to do so many things after that. There was a sort of, I don't know what they have in them, you guys. Somebody needs to do the study and find out what the heck does Doma have. Because really, they are a powerhouse of nutrients. Yeah. So we should be eating our traditional foods. They have something similar here called taro, but it doesn't taste the same. Doma is not a joke. So if they take the doma seed and tell us that we cannot plant it, we're in trouble. Oh, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Yeah. So some of us, many people are even moving back home from the diaspora because of the food. Because you feel weak, your body starts to weaken. Yeah, when you're not eating the right foods. It's actually a problem. So I think we should take it seriously. Yeah. And those of you who are there, Doma, yes, Miss Doma, we went shopping with you recently in Cardiff. Doma sits in the stomach like a stone. Yeah, it turns, this is Grace. Grace, stop being dramatic. It churns out energy over time. Don't play with Doma. Doma is no joke. No joke. And the best way to eat it actually in Doma, at least for me, the way I like it, if you cut it into thin slices and you fry them in ghee on a pan. And you know, if they're sweet and you make sure that they're dryish, that is a food. Don't make me start swallowing saliva here. Just because of Ndoma. Can you believe it, guys? I'm desperate here. Susan is dying of laughter. She's like, who would eat
Yeah.
Doma? Susan's favorite, I
Actually,
think, is potatoes. Do you like potatoes, Susan? There are
I
plenty
had some
here.
yesterday. I
You
had
had
some
Doma
yesterday.
yesterday.
Doma and guashe, sweet potatoes and arrowroot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a really
Yeah.
nice combination with sausages. Tastes so
Oh.
nice. Yeah, that's that taste of Doma with some salty. Way.
Oh, okay.
Very nice. It's very nice with the sausages
Yeah.
now. Yeah, you make me actually catch a flight to come back home. And then you people want to give away our seeds. No.
They want to control it. And when you see something like that, somebody's definitely
Simon Mambo.
benefiting somewhere.
Tuko wazuri Simon, karibu. Simon heard about Ndoma and sausages and he ended up over here. He came to say hi. Have you come for lunch? Dinner, Simon. Trust a man to always come when there's food being talked about. Anyway, we're just joking, Simon. Karibu sana, welcome. And yeah, join us in the chat. And Grace is saying somebody did a school audit about why the Akamba people live long. It was because of the boiled organic food. I kid you not. Do research on what tribes live longest in Kenya. It's food related. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And dry conditions related too. The Akamba
Yeah.
people, nobody has done a study on them, but you want to tell me when we used to travel to to Kitui. You know, when we used to go with, when I used to work for this agricultural project, and we used to go there, you know, just for like, what do we say, exchanges, farm exchanges, to go and learn. Those women, they are almost 100 and they're dancing like they're 21. You know, they're dancing, they're
Yeah.
shaking their shoulders and jumping up and down. And you yourself, you're talking arthritis in your knees. Those women don't know what arthritis is, you know,
Yeah.
and they're
Mm.
old and they're so flexible. There's something very special about the Akamba people, very special. And the drier,
Yeah.
from the very dry parts of Ukambaland. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
food related. Yeah, food
It
definitely.
is definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. My grandmother, my late grandmother, she had all her teeth when she passed away. She was eating sugar cane, and
yeah,
you know, the sugar cane. She'd eat it, you know, and how sugar cane, you really need your teeth for that. And she
yeah.
used to have the traditional food. Yeah, you know, the domas, guache. She liked the sweet potatoes and the domas, that type
Yeah.
of food. That's what she liked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's
And
really, you know,
maize
it's really
and
great.
Mogokoi.
Yes,
And you
and
know, yeah,
maize. Yes,
I'm not
yeah,
surprised your grandmother had all her teeth. A lot of elderly
and the
people have
beans.
all their teeth. A lot of them
Yeah.
had. Not the ones of today,
Mm.
not our mothers of today, their mothers. Their mothers. Those ones are our
Yeah,
mothers now. They messed up their teeth with sugar, you know, refined carbohydrates. But their parents, most of them, they had daggers called teeth, very serious ones. And that was so important for chewing their food so that it's digestible in their old age. Simon told me that ninapenda ndoma sana. I knew it. Ninapenda ndoma sana. Ninakuja.
inakuja.
Don't come here because this place hakuna ndoma hapa. Niko Wales, in Cardiff. Hapa hakuna ndoma. Simon, pole. I'm actually suffering in silence here. No ndoma. The closest I'll get to ndoma is plantain. And that's a lot of sugar. That's completely different from, you know, and we get them from the Asian shops and stuff like that. But anyway,
Yeah,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at
So,
a report here. I'm looking
yeah.
at a report here that just to, you know, talk about maybe some social issues. And it's talking about more women than men are vaping. So this study that was done by the tobacco, this is in Kenya, right? Tobacco Control Data Initiative under the Ministry of Health. The prevalence of cigarette smoking among men aged 15 to 49 dropped from 15.8% in 2014 to 9.3% in 2022. In contrast, smoking among women in the same age group increased from 0.4% to 0.7% over the same period. So women are now smoking and men are reducing their smoking. And in fact, there's a bill which is on its second reading. It's been led by a woman, a nominated senator. Tobacco Control Amendment Bill 2024. It's addressing the issue of vaping, which has been deemed to be something, people think it's fashionable and all that, but we've seen the devastating effects it has on people's lives. Respiratory failure, even people are doing it even from a young age, they end up with very serious complications. So in Kenya, vaping, although it's been in Kenya for 8 years, it remains unregulated, making it difficult to track usage trends. And that's one of the things she talks about there. And she says that these e-cigarettes, which are commonly known as vapes, emit vapor that smells more like cologne than smoke. However, the e-juice used in these devices typically contain nicotine, a highly addictive substance derived from tobacco. So it's a trend there where it has some gender implications, where we're seeing more women taking up this habit. The writer, she's called Mora Obiria, and I'm reading the Daily Nation of today. She says that when she was asked, in the course of her writing of this particular piece, she interviewed a fourth-year student and said how she was introduced to it in 2022, and she said it felt classy and nice. And then obviously it ends up being something, and I think it's very, very highly addictive. I think it's 10 times more highly addictive than actual cigarette smoking. And we know in the US, for instance, certain companies had to shut down because of the devastating effects of this particular way of smoking. So this is what's happening in our country now. So there's a proposed law that seeks to tighten regulations. When we're talking about health issues and how it's so good to eat the right food, it keeps us strong and healthy. Our teeth, like my grandmother, I said, is still eating sugarcane, and she was in her 90s. And she could, just chew that sugarcane. I think some of us, if you try to eat sugarcane when we're nowhere near 90, that it's likely you'll have to go to a dentist very soon because you've lost some of your teeth. Your
Yeah.
teeth are loose,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, she just used to amaze us, and she ate very healthy food. My grandmother was not one to eat things that were not healthy, and she lived long. The only thing that she fell down, and that's perhaps her health started to decline from that, but otherwise she was looking great, and
Yeah,
standing
that's
with a straight back and
that's
everything.
one
Yeah,
thing to really be careful of with the elderly, not that they should not fall. The elderly
yeah,
lose balance. They lose balance. People lose balance as they get older. So
yeah.
apart from being weaker, you also lose balance with your ears. Your ears also balance your body, I think, somehow. I think, I'm not
Oh,
sure.
definitely.
But
Yeah, you
when your hearing goes, even your balance goes. You have to be careful with the elderly not to fall, because usually that's the one that's most dangerous. But as for it, they
yeah,
can eat well and not fall down and all that. Honestly, people can live a long life. Now, talking about vaping, Susan, I wanted to present something on vaping that I saw
yeah, yeah,
um, about the dangers of vaping. If I can present
yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very
It's actually
10 times
dangerous.
more addictive. Yeah.
Mm,
Mm.
mm, mm. Okay, let's watch this, guys.
Why is vaping so dangerous? Well, vape solutions contain diacetyl and formaldehyde, so when inhaled into the lungs, it can directly damage the lung sacs. This causes a condition called popcorn lung, which affects how your lungs transfer CO2 and get oxygen into your body. This is a serious condition that frequently requires hospitalization and can even result in death. Nicotine is an intense vasoconstrictor, and the nicotine content in vape solutions is largely unregulated. In addition to that, vaping has become very socially acceptable, so you can pretty much vape anywhere, which increases the exposure of this unregulated nicotine solution. High nicotine exposure increases your risks of high blood pressure, consequently, heart attack and stroke. And finally, vape solutions contain carcinogens like formaldehyde, as well as toxic materials like lead and tin and nickel. These things are inhaled into the lungs and are very difficult, if ever, cleared from the body. Now look, your body, your rules, but we are just starting to understand both the short-term and the long-term effects of vaping. So educate yourself and make good decisions that make sense in your life.
Here to Meskia.
Great
Meskia,
advice. Great
wow,
advice.
fantastic. Formaldehyde. Isn't that the stuff that some people were putting in milk to preserve it? Yeah. You saw some people, some unscrupulous traders in Kenya were being accused of using formaldehyde. Isn't that the stuff that's used for embalming people? Yeah. They were using it in milk to keep it so that you can transport milk from far away into Nairobi. The milk that comes in open cans, yeah, the fresh milk, sometimes, yeah, it was found to contain that kind of stuff. Yeah, those kinds of chemicals. It kind of reminds me of shisha, and the way that shisha was introduced as a very harmless a harmless social kind of thing, yeah, pastime. And the way I had to fight my son over shisha. Now parents have to fight their kids over vaping. Have you seen the vaping? Have you seen the vaping containers? They look like perfume bottles. They are beautiful. If you go to the vape shop here in Cardiff, wow, beautiful. I mean, you pass through there. I think one day I'm going to try and see if I can take a picture of the vaping shop. It is so pretty. Bright pink, purple, the colors, very colorful bottles. You'd want to own one just for the bottle itself. Looks like perfume, but it's really, really laced with some very dangerous chemicals. Now we know popcorn lung. This is one problem that we have here in the UK. In the UK, a big problem with vaping. Grace Agenda is saying it's a good time to ask how come the Bakea Mutiso was never so toxic. So do we still grow tobacco? How about BAT? Does it still exist? I think BAT is no longer there in Kenya, is it? Grace. And then we have Simon over here who's looking for a wife. Simon, wrong show, wrong show. You have 27 years old, my friend. Simon, I think we need to do. Susan is going to die laughing. He's like, where the heck is this coming from? Simon came here for Doma and a wife. Wrong show, Simon, wrong show, but welcome anyway. Maybe you might learn one or two things about vaping. And then Grace is saying it's a good time to ask how come Bakea Mutiso. And she's saying formaldehyde is a body preservative. It's repulsive alone knowing it's used in the morgue. Yeah. Imagine.
It smells terrible. It smells terrible. It doesn't smell nice at all. You can smell it.
Yeah, Simon, Grace is telling you on the wrong show. Mm-hmm. Maybe for Doma, but we don't also come with wives as well. Just because you see ladies, we're not bringing wives here and telling them how to cook Doma for their husbands. But anyway, yeah, now talking about vaping, yeah, it's one of the most dangerous things. It's causing popcorn lung. A lot of young people are being affected, even here in the UK. It's not even a laughing matter. It's dangerous. The government has actually taken it up here in the UK. It's an issue. And young people in Kenya need to know, in Africa, you need to know that vaping is dangerous, super dangerous. I think young people should not think that vaping is safe or safer than smoking. It's not. Obviously, you heard the doctor say it right here.
It's 10 times worse and 10 times more addictive and 10 times worse. And even the people who inhale the secondary smoke are in that much more danger of suffering health risks. I remember one time meeting a young lady, and I went to her desk. You know how you go to an exhibition, and so they were selling some things, and I approached her, and she was busy puffing on that thing. I was so put off. I left that. I didn't even want to have a conversation with them because I think she was more interested in puffing on that vape than actually talking to customers. And and the other thing that's really worrying about it is that it seems not to have you know how in Kenya, you can't smoke unless you can't buy cigarettes unless you're 18. So it seems not to be under that. So even younger people can take it and say, oh, it has these flavors in it, these flavors, the various flavors, and anybody can sort of take it. So it's a deception, really, because I think the inventors of it were trying to make something smokeless that is even worse than actually smoking. And I remember reading some articles where children were being admitted to hospital with lung failure. And because they were so obsessed with it, and once they get addicted, it's really hard for people to stop, vaping. It's something we should take seriously. I hope the senator is able to get that bill passed. It's on its second reading here in Kenya. I hope she is able to get it passed. And what's even more worrying is that it's become a gender issue in terms of more women. More women are now smoking, and the numbers for men is coming down. And the health risks on that is so serious. something that we should take
Yeah.
really seriously.
Yeah, Susan, my question is, what are the studies saying? What is causing more women to smoke now? What specifically?
She didn't give details, but this lady who was interviewed said, well, it looks cool. She looks, you look sophisticated and you look,
Ah,
cool.
hmm.
So, with the Gen Zs and the millennials and all those, you can't really tell what it is that they
Mm-hmm.
they think about. But this is a fourth year student, so we'd say that's a Gen Z, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, she was introduced to it by a friend, and it looked cool and sophisticated. But you see, this is the thing, like you said, the lure, the deception,
Mm-hmm.
making them look
Yeah,
beautiful and
very.
harmless, and yet they are so dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
like serpents.
Mm-hmm.
You know how a serpent, sort of like
There's a
deceiving.
Bible verse about that. It's good I went to it's good I went to Sunday school. I learned a lot of things from the Bible that are helping me. Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm. They
yeah.
say do not
So
stare at red wine as it sparkles in the bottle or something. In the end, it
yeah.
stings like a viper, doesn't it? Something like that.
But,
Just remember it from my own head. Mhm.
yeah,
It's in the
yeah,
book of Proverbs. Very dangerous. Yeah.
yeah.
Do not
You have to
do not
beware.
stare at wine. Was it wine or something like that? But it's not. But generally, it's like being careful about becoming an alcoholic. It's not bad to
Yeah,
drink a glass of wine, I don't think, but the idea of lingering, that lingering effect of the eye, because it's beautiful, it sparkles, it's beautiful. Hmm? And yeah. And it's also, it's actually a very dangerous thing. Yeah. But young people, and when they're younger and younger, are using vapes. It seems to be like a cool thing. Yeah.
yeah. They think it looks really sophisticated and cool, and
Mm-hmm.
they're saying, "Oh, it's a smokeless this, a smokeless that." But you see, it's the way they've packaged it, which should make us even more wary, because it's a
Mm-hmm.
deception. It's a
Mm-hmm.
deception.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way, um, you know, we see all these like dramas and plays and stuff like that, where the person who's most beautifully looks most beautiful is actually the most dangerous person in the room. I mean, just the character, when we're talking about plays. I'm not saying somehow in dramas, when they want to articulate how evil
Oh,
is
I see
sort
in
of
plays.
masked.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How it's evil is masked. It's not immediately obvious. And so
Mm-hmm.
the deception that is involved in that is even more scary. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's important for people to talk about it, even for this bill, to come through, and for people to know, and parents to know there's actually something called vaping, because that could be another problem. That they don't realize that they might think it's a harmless thing, but it's actually one of the most dangerous things
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
anybody, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
your age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
these are
it's
some of the things that are happening here in Kenya.
yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
uh, Susan, on a light note, President William Ruto was making a joke about Kenyans, about Kenyan men not being fast enough. Because his daughter has been married by a Nigerian. I'm going back to Simon's question there. He's President Williams. One of President Williams' greatest concerns right now is that Kenyan men might be missing out on the mark, missing the mark here. So let's listen
Are
to.
Nigerian men really marrying all the women in Kenya? Kenyan President William Ruto jokingly raised concerns about a potential brain drain from his country as Nigerian men are swooping in and winning them over. He also mentioned that his own daughter is even married to a Nigerian, and he faced the Kenyan men. Watch this.
My daughter is married to a Nigerian. This one now, again, is married to a Nigerian. And our guys around, I don't know, sijui wako slow ama so we need to balance these scales, because at this rate we are going to have a brain drain from Kenya. I think there is something between Kenya and Nigeria. Yeah. So we should build it further.
Are Nigerian
Okay, so anybody want to comment? Comment section. You're quiet over there. Are you asleep? Huh?
First, I think that's a political statement. He was
Yeah,
trying to
obviously.
butter up the people he was around.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, when it comes
But on a
to
serious
marriage,
note.
when it comes to marriage, people's choice is your choice. And I don't whatever it is that that draws you to to maybe with this rather than the other. It has nothing to do with the Kenyan men are slow or the Nigerian men are fast. Even if the Kenyan men were
Although they are.
fast and the Nigerian men are fast,
the track, but not in the heart.
yes.
Not in heart matters. They're very fast on the track. Nobody has measured. Look at this cat deciding to walk across here. Nobody has decided. That was my cat. Can you imagine?
Are you serious? That's
Yeah, she's had enough. She's telling me it's enough. Here she is. Say hello. Say hello. They're crazy. Yeah, they like attention. Cats.
I'm sure. When did he make that statement? Are you saying the netizens haven't taken it up and answered? You know how they're so fast at picking up topics and shooting videos. We should wait for the videos and the responses from the Kenyan guys.
It would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice. It's nice to joke a little bit sometimes. Life is too serious and it's too short to be too serious. Aye. Anyway, thank you so much, Susan. That's been a lovely show. And thank you all of you guys in the comment section, starting with Grace and of course, Angela Wainaina, I believe it was. Thank you so much, for being here. I hope that you stayed through the whole show. I know it's a bit long, but that's the whole idea, to keep you guys over here, Yeah, so karibuni sana. Also, please remember to thumbs up the videos, share them with other people. Watch them through the week. You can listen to them almost like a podcast. You don't even have to see our faces. Yeah, I think we're that interesting, don't you think? And then also, please kindly follow me on my videos. I'm trying my best to produce content for you guys. I hope it's interesting. Please come and make comments. You're my people. Come and make comments on the show. Those of you who didn't catch us on the live show, I'm sure you're going to be watching later. Please also watch my other videos and put comments in YouTube. Thank you for the comments you send me on WhatsApp, but they will be much more helpful on YouTube, okay? Because that way YouTube will actually push my videos. It will push my channel. It will push our channel. And by the way, very soon we should actually be able to get super chats and super thanks from these live shows that we do with Susan. And it's only that I haven't figured out how to connect them. Yeah, because I did this out of passion, to be honest. I did this out of passion, but of course, passion needs to pay at some point. Yeah, passion needs to pay the bill sometimes. So let's see how we can get people to contribute super thanks and super chats, like $5 or we're using dollars nowadays, or we're not using dollars. Yeah, so $5, $10, whatever you want to contribute, you can. Yeah, but I have to actually create that platform before I start requesting for those kinds of support, because of course it helps us, to do more research. And for some of us who are too old for formal employment, we can keep it here and keep you entertained and have something to scroll on that you're going to enjoy. So those guys who are on the live show, thank you so much. Thank you, Simon, for being here. Wrong show, but we'll try to see how to address your concerns. I think we tried a little bit. You're looking for a wife. Number 1, pray. Number 2, seek, and you shall find. Yeah. So, Susan and everybody, kwaherini. Good night and bye-bye. To-dos. Have a great weekend. And thank you very much for being here. Bye now. Bye. Remember to thumbs up, guys. Thumbs up the video. Thank you. Oh, Grace is saying something here. Hold on. What is Grace saying? Slow, can he qualify and quantify that? The heart wants what the heart wants. Mo can tell us as someone who went to look in that western region of Africa. Okay, that's a trick question, Grace. Bye. We'll talk about that next time. Bye-bye. Toodles. Bye now. Thank you.